little research I did, you got to travel across the world, right? Europe, from what I understood, Italy, Sweden. You worked at a restaurant in New York City. Now it's like LeBron James said, you bring your talents to Miami. You probably met a lot of interesting people along the way and got inspired and learned a lot. Let's start with like what got you interested and invested and committed in making food for a living.
There goes the time
Yeah.
of the way up to 10:30. The more. First of all, thank you for having me.
For sure.
This is awesome to be part of beautiful brands here in Miami. I think the more that we get together of people here in Miami that are genuinely wanting to create communities and share a voice, share a beautiful voice. The more I'm there. So awesome to be part of this. And back to your question, I think the more the more I'm asked this question, the more I realized how cooking for me has been in my blood since very little, without really knowing that that was my path, or the path that I needed to take in life. At a much earlier age, I did start very early. I did, came to the epiphany that cooking was my thing when I was 16. But much before that, I was your typical Colombian kid that wanted to be a football soccer star, football star, and that's all I did. That was all I was doing during recess, during mornings, nights, weekends, weekdays.
So football, aka soccer, was your thing.
Football was my thing.
I didn't know that.
All the way. I came to the United States when I was 10 years old. My parents divorced, and my mom remarried to a half Greek, half Italian man that was working in Washington, D.C. at the time. So he brought us. When I say us, it's a crazy story because my mom at the time was 35 years old, had 4 kids, all at like the worst age possible, from like ranging from 15 to 8.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, this crazy mad man, so in love with my with my mother, said, yeah, it's a great idea to just marry this woman and bring 4 kids with me to Washington, D.C. And the story begins there.
Was that straight from Colombia? You guys were in the U.S. already?
No, straight from Santa Marta.
Wow.
Yeah, straight from the Caribbean of Colombia.
Love
where in the hills of Santa Marta, which is the Sierra Nevada de Santa Marta, some of the greatest cacao as well.
Yeah.
Cacao beans.
That's why I wanted.
And yeah, it's truly magical, especially because they're being also grown by the Arhuacos, which is the indigenous tribes from that region, and they're just sacred beans. Anyways, we moved to Washington, D.C. My stepfather, it's a diplomat, so every 4 years we were moving somewhere else around the world. And when I get to Washington, D.C., all I was doing was playing football. I was very good at it. I was very, very, very fast, and of course I had the injuries, and I had the knees injuries since.
What type of knee injuries?
I have 5 surgeries on my knees
Fuck.
everything is completely reconstructed in my knees.
How did we not ever? I had 3 knee surgeries,
Yeah.
ankle surgery,
Yeah.
2 ACLs on the same knee.
Yeah.
Same?
For me, it's both ACLs,
Oh my God.
reconstructions of meniscus, removal of meniscus.
And this is as a teenager.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, very, very, unfortunately very young. But that also gave me the time to
Reflect.
reflect and be like, okay, this is not my path, or like this can't continue to be my path because I'm just not going to make it. My body's not going to make it. And at the time, I was 16 years old, and we were living in India, in New Delhi. That's where I graduated high school.
Okay.
And and that's, within the culture and richness of food in India was when I realized that all my life, I've been, with an eye towards football, and then another one like, hey, what's happening in the kitchen, and realized that all throughout my life, I would, always go into the kitchen and ask our chef to teach me how to make rice. For instance, I learned how to make rice, or like white rice.
That's the first thing I learned how to make.
That's
Other
the
than,
yeah.
scrambled eggs and
Yeah,
stuff like
no,
that, I would hover over my mom and my grandma. I'm like, okay, so the onions first, you look at the exact ratio for the water to rice. Literally the first thing I learned.
Yeah, and the same way I make rice, or I learned how to make rice back when I was like 8 years old, it's still the same way that I make rice. I
same.
don't change that technique, and it always works.
Nice.
And yeah, while I was, while we were in India, we had this amazing chef at home. She was basically like 70 years old and has probably been cooking for 60 years of her life. Mostly with like international families. And so every single day, she was like a walking encyclopedia of like gastronomy. She knew how to make from the most traditionally like pad thai to like a Colombian dish to like Italian pastas, Greek dishes, like everything. So
All self-taught, probably.
all self-taught, and she would not leave the kitchen. She was in the kitchen 24/7, always cooking, always baking. I would come back from school and she had a whole bowl of like peeled grapes. Things like you were like, what? How does she make all of this? And at breakfast, lunch, and dinner, they were like buffets, at home. We're a big family, so the table was always something that was sacred. No matter if you were mad, if you had issues, if my mom just screamed at us, or you just like pulled my sister just pulled my hair, or like vice versa. When it was time to sit at the table, like you sit properly and you enjoy like eating, no matter what, for breakfast, lunch, and dinner growing up. And
Do you attribute that to just the food, or the entire experience around it and the camaraderie feeling and you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because there's something very special around, like, when it comes to, we have, in Judaism, and me being from Israel, right, there's Shabbat dinners that literally feel like Thanksgivings every single weekend. You have just regular holiday traditional kind of get-togethers. Like, there is something very special beyond the custom foods that it serves.
yeah.
What do you think that gave you guys as a unit, as a family?
I think as a lesson in life, and as I grow older and realize and meet people that didn't really have this experience, it's for me it's like a lesson of forgiveness, a lesson of like, hey, no matter what's going on, no matter like what's happening, take a breath. Let's enjoy this food that we're very fortunate to have in front of our eyes, and let's forget about the bad. Let's forget about that my sister just like bit me, or that I just had a fight with my brother, and he's sitting right next to me and we're sharing the same dish.
Yeah. It's like a joint moment of gratitude and being present.
Absolutely.
And letting it go.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, practicing that every single day throughout life is not, it for me it gave me a lesson of compassion, and I love that. And I will forever, nurture that and value that in my life, because that's what food does, Food makes you forget about everything and nurtures you, makes you feel good. And that for me was just a very special, thing to always reflect on.
Do you attribute that as the core reason for why you went into the profession that you're in?
Absolutely. I think it showed me the power of food and the power of putting people together.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
that is, that's something that I still hold very dear in my heart and very dear in my soul. That you have the power to unite, that you have the power to like bring people together through the bridge of a plate of food, an ingredient that you just cooked. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
But I mean, for me, it's crazy. Some people is like, dude, come on,
Do you ever watch the movie Ratatouille? You had to.
of course,
Of course you did.
of course.
It's like that moment of, and we talk about this all the time, right? Because there's like there's a whole narrative that we want to recreate from an experiential standpoint when it comes to chocolate. But food in general, it has the ability to take you back to certain times in the past, moments, feelings, smells. Like it activates senses. It's crazy. It has literally the power to create some sort of internal magic that is really hard to explain and even label.
Yeah.
And that to me was what was always so special about just the experience of food in general.
Yeah.
Fast forwarding, how long have you been working as a chef or in the kitchen?
Yeah.
Formally now?
Yeah, for over 10, more than 15 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So fast forwarding to over a decade, 10 to 15 years now.
Sorry,
Yeah, please.
I wanted to tell a very specific story that kind of like gave me such a strong light to the power of cooking, to the power of food. As we were in Washington D.C., I think at the time I was 14 years old. My stepfather was on a mission somewhere in Africa, and my sisters were at school. It was basically just my mom and I at home. And my mom had just came back from the hospital, very sad, and she told me, "Sebas, I'm pregnant." At the time, my mom was 39, close to 40 years old.
My age now.
Yeah, and she was like, I'm pregnant. I fell from the stairs, and I went to the doctor to just check on myself, and the doctor told me I'm pregnant, and told me that if I don't stay still for a whole weekend and basically like not get up from bed, I might lose the baby. And she's like, "Wow, Mom, okay, I'm here for you, and whatever we need to do, we're here." And she goes up to her room on the third floor of the home, and she calls me and she's like, "Sebas, I'm really hungry. I'm really hungry, and I would love arroz con pollo." I'm like, "Mom, arroz con pollo? I don't know how to make arroz con pollo." It's like, "Yes, you do. You've seen me do it. You've always been in the kitchen, kind of like, asking about this, asking about that." And I was like, I'll show you, or I'll tell you every single step. And then every single step you accomplish the kitchen was on the second floor. You come up, you show me, and I'll tell you what's next. It was an arroz con pollo that was made in like 5 hours. From like
Who
going
knew? Rice
up
and chicken.
down, going up and down. And you would cut the onions, and it was, "Mom, are these okay?" It's like, "Yeah, now throw them in the pan." Okay, throw them in the
And
pan.
you're 14 years old.
I was, yeah.
Okay.
I was very young, 14, 13 years old. And by the time that, I finished cooking the arroz con pollo, I set her up in a little tray. I bring it up to my mom, and she takes the first bite, and she looks at me and she's like, "This is the best arroz con pollo I've ever had in my life." And like that moment, I was like, wow. You just put a big smile into my mom's face so she can rest and take care of her baby, and she'll be okay because she has food, and she has, comfort of her room, and she have
Positive, good energy.
yeah. And that for me was like, seeing my mom smile and being, and not worrying about what she needs to eat, and she can just rest, is like literally just saved my little sister's life. And, she's now 18 years old, and she's the most gorgeous human being ever. and from that moment was like, there's something within cooking, there's something within making food for people that's powerful, and here I am, still cooking, still chopping those onions.
That's beautiful. What do you ever think you're ever gonna do anything else? I know it's a crazy question because you never know.
Yeah.
But
I
let's
mean,
say in the next 10 to 15 years.
oh, anything else?
Yeah, other than cooking.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. Absolutely.
Outside of the dining experiential restaurant space.
Yeah, of
Yeah?
course. I mean, I don't think it. Yeah. I mean, I'll always have a foot in the kitchen, but I love nature. I love growing my own food. I love raising my own animals. I love seeing being part of the cycles of life and nature. So for me, yeah, cooking, this is a phase where I'm building, my company. I'm building restaurants. I'm building a beautiful company. But at the same time, I just want to be in months.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
no, I
want to
get
be
you.
in
Trust me,
months
I get you.
with my vegetables and my animals and my family and my kids running around and things like that. So that's definitely a part of my life that I'm cooking as well.
Yeah.
That's just like
Yeah.
slowly braising.
Same here, trust me.
Yeah, it's just slowly braising. Yeah. So
Amazing.
yeah.
That's a good segue to what I wanted to ask you next. So fast forward from being a teenager or a young adult, 10, 15 years minimum, I think. You guys were just awarded your first Michelin-Star for Los Félix here in Coconut Grove in Miami. I don't know what the exact percentage is in order to be able to even position yourself to get that, but it's definitely less than 1% out of all the restaurants, definitely in the world, but, we'll keep it in the US and in Miami. Talk to me about, like, how do you go about positioning yourself from a menu standpoint, training the staff, for lack of, without getting into the micro level details, creating an experience so powerful to where you would be awarded such an honor, right, for the food and the experience as a whole?
Yeah, well, the Michelin, it's certainly one of the highest accolades that you can receive as a chef, as a restaurant. You see throughout the world and throughout the United States, the difference of what a Michelin-star restaurant is and can be. There's 1 stars, there's 2 stars, and there's ultimately, 3-star Michelin restaurants. And the beauty of it all is that there's no clear list or things that you need to, like, there's not a checklist that you're like, okay, if I do this, it will result in a Michelin star. It's completely anonymous. It's something that you never know whether you're gonna get it or not. And I tell this also to, like, chefs and, like, restaurant owners. Don't ever open up a restaurant with the desire of just getting a Michelin star. That's like the worst path you could, like, choose for yourself, because you're gonna get it, and things are not gonna get any better. Things are just gonna be, there's gonna be more pressure. There's gonna be much more expectations. There's definitely gonna be more work. People are going to just start judging because people love judging.
Yeah.
And it's never good enough. And
when you're at the top, that's when they come for you.
And there's no checklist or anything like that that's gonna save you from that. So, for us, it came very organically, very, very quick as well. We opened up Los Félix in 2021, and 8 months after opening, we received our first Michelin star, which was like, what the? How did this happen? I didn't even go to the gala because, I knew that the Michelin was coming to Miami, but there was no way we were going to get one. So
why? Why in your mind was it, like, not even a probable outcome?
Because, I've worked professionally in 3 Michelin-star restaurants, all throughout my professional life in 2 Michelin-star restaurants and 1 Michelin-star restaurants. And I was also in a moment of my life where I've put that mentality aside, and what I wanted to do was not about opening up a restaurant with the standards or like whatever idea that we all may have about a Michelin star. I just wanted to cook good food. I just wanted to cook healthy food. I just wanted to make sure that, during the pandemic and after the pandemic, there was hope. There was hope for myself. There was that desire of being able to create something for myself. And I think those are the things that, if done them right, if you do them right and you really do it for the sake of that love and that bridge between you and people and you and sharing a table, those stars will come and those accolades will come. And you have that talent and you have that taste, like those things would come.
What about the alignment of the staff?
The alignment,
because that's everything, right? They're a massive extension of you, and without them,
absolutely. I mean, they that's the hardest part.
Yeah.
Humans, man. They're the human.
You're managing personalities. Everyone wants something else. Everyone has ideas that may or may not. By the way, those ideas can be great ideas. Yeah. They just might not be aligned with the vision and mission that you have for your restaurants and your company.
Yeah.
So how do you get everyone on board to satisfy the same mission?
I don't think you ever accomplish that. I think, people through their personalities, through their culture, through their background, aligned with those ethos and align with that philosophy and that style of service or that story. I mean, the way I tell that story about one dish is completely different from the way that every single server says it.
Pitches
it. But they're not wrong. They're all beautiful in an extent. But it's about finding, of course, the right people, the people that are in alignment with the ethos, with the philosophy, with your purpose of a restaurant and the message that you're trying to, put across. And it happens where, you realize that people are not aligned with that and they just automatically come out of that cycle and they leave the restaurant. And that's something that's very important that I think we've created, and we work on it so hard every single day to just make sure that, it's not about me telling you what to do or how to do it, but it's in a way like finding an alignment with my ethos, with our philosophy, with our way of doing things, and getting the best of you. So you're a messenger of that thought, of that idea, and you just have to love people. You have to love what you do. You have to love the idea that you are a service. You are an experience for someone else. And it's difficult to find that people, but we've been fortunate enough to observe that, to attract that.
It's creating a culture that people will see so clearly and feel it. Yeah. Sometimes you don't even see it, but you do feel it, that they will naturally align or misalign.
Yeah, it's an attraction. Oh. It's an attraction with our brand. It's an attraction with our food. It's an attraction with our philosophy. It's an attraction with how we also want to move forward and how we also, want to grow. And that's very clear, and we share that very, very openly with our staff, so that they jump on the train, and they grow with us, and they think with us, and they, and they have that thirst of being better, of getting better through what they love to do.
Interesting. Yeah. Let's talk about the food standards in the U.S. You grew up in a different country. I did too. But you've been here for a long time now. You've opened businesses here. I'm sure. Well, actually, I'm not sure. I'll leave that as an open-ended question. But in terms of sourcing ingredients, and all that stuff. I'm sure it's in and out of the U.S. What is your hot take on just food and the food system in the U.S. today?
It's the more that I get in it, and the more I realized how it has turned to be so easy to get food, whether it's delivered, whether it's just go to the supermarket.
Convenience trumps everything. Yeah.
You have all options at all times, but all the options in a way are not so good for yourself. And agriculture in the United States has, surpassed the demand as a country. I think we, by the first quarter of this year, we have already, in theory, produced in the United States food for the rest of the year.
Yeah,
and
we're in surplus, constant surplus.
Constant surplus. So, when you see that and you realize that, why am I, having strawberries all year long, or why are bananas all year long in
I never had that growing up, by the way. It's like you have things that it's like they're just not available for 4 or 5 months out of the year, minimum.
Exactly. And there are other things that, if you taste them while they're at their peak season, is it's the best.
Yeah.
But I do understand why we have come to where we have come. Not everybody cooks. Not everybody likes to cook. Cooking is an art that comes from within, and not everybody has that. But we all need to eat, and we all, people are fine basically eating 1 or 2 things in their whole life. So if you like pasta with tomatoes and that's all you eat, well, I better be able to get tomatoes in the supermarket all year long. I think what I'm getting to here is that it's so hard to make everybody realize the importance of seasonality and understanding seasonality. But it's difficult to cook for some people. And, having the availabilities all throughout the year is what people want. So there is a very screwed up system that we're all victims of. And I mean, the future of that, it's hard to see.
Do you ever spend time on like, because I know part of what you do is, and I've had the great pleasure of dining at Krüs Kitchen, which is one of your other restaurants, recently with my wife and newborn, who chumped on some of that as well. Flavors, quality, experience, right, is a lot of what screams in my ear when I come to dine at your restaurant.
Yeah.
At the same time, there is the health component of the ingredients that you source. Where do you think we're getting that wrong, right? So, like as a nation, as a system in general, to your point, there is a surplus, right, and availability. People have to eat; they don't like to cook necessarily. I think we're now in the era of information, also, where people are starting to realize a little bit more what you should and should not put in your body.
Yeah.
Why do you think that's such an important thing, especially in this day and age in the U.S., for people to get a little bit more educated on the importance of the quality of the ingredients that they actually put in their body?
I think like I said earlier, we're all victims of the demand that as a society we've created for agricultures to just like crank food and just have the availability of food everywhere. And the only way to do that is, using chemicals, using I don't even know the whole list of things
highly processed methods
that people do, and that agricultures play such a big part of. But you're realizing now that even young 20-year-olds or young 30-year-old individuals are having diabetes problems. They're having heart problems. They're having, they don't have energy. They're obese or overweight, or like, all of these things are part of what we see, and that have in a way become a normality.
Yeah, it's normalized in society. Absolutely.
They normalize these things, and there's so little. Like, I don't blame people
Yeah.
that aren't, that are overweight or that are having these issues, because there's so little information about what to eat, how to eat it, where to source, the proteins that you should be eating, all of these things, because of the surplus that we see and we have all around ourselves. But I'm also very glad and happy to see that, with social media and influencers and podcasts and people really trying to show and give the tools to a society about, hey, being healthy and looking good, it's not a physical thing. It's 100% a mental thing.
Yeah.
And it's something that, doing so and being able to know what you're eating, where your fats are coming from, what proteins you're having, like all of these things are a reflection of your energy, a reflection of the stimulation of your brain cells, or an extension of your strength, of your creativity, like all of these things that we all want. We all want that.
Yeah.
We all want to be happy, and eating and knowing what goes into our body is a very, very big part of that. It doesn't only come from yoga and meditation and acupuncture, like all of these things that are now trending and like everybody's doing, but then they go home and have a Snicker bar or a frozen food they just put into the microwave. That's bringing your energy and everything down. So yeah, I think we're now all being a little bit more aware of how important those practices are to reflect what we truly want to do and be, so that there's a little hope there.
For sure.
And the more that you tell the story, and the more that you show people that, like, hey, your skin looks great, or hey, your hair looks great, or hey, your whatever. It's not that I put on a chemical or something like that, or that I'm doing this. I'm eating well. I'm making sure that I'm having no seed oils, and making sure that my meats are grass fed, and making sure that the dairy that I'm consuming is raw, beautiful dairy to help my guts and to help my digestive system and inflammations of my body, and all of these things. And yeah, it's a lot of work, and there's very, very little information about that in the world. So yeah, it's
slowly changing.
It's slowly changing. Yeah.
What would you tell a person who, I think part of the issue is we live in a very fast-paced life, right? Everything is fast. We are being pulled to a million different directions, whether it's our phones, our jobs, our social life, whatever it might be. We don't seem to have a lot of downtime. And that's a whole nother topic that we can get into at another time. But with the context of food, if I'm someone who, I'm very busy, I might have a family, I like to run around a lot, maybe I'm also not the best cook, I'm not that great in the kitchen, but I do want to eat well, and I want to eat healthy foods. What would be your recommendation for someone like that? What do they do? Where do they start?
I think, as an active person with, and that's the scenario with a lot of people here in the United States, and they're working and they have a family and this and that. I think the first step towards being a little bit more healthy and conscious about your, what you're eating, is to know where your food's coming from.
Absolutely. And are you saying from the sense of like the ingredients of the stuff that you buy in the supermarket?
100%.
What about people that go to a restaurant? Do you think it's weird for them to just show up and be like, what do you put in that? Do you use seed oils? Do you use sugars?
I think people should do that.
Yeah.
I think people.
I agree, by
people-
the way,
Yeah.
but
I think people need to push restaurants to do that, because restaurants aren't doing that.
Yeah.
And restaurants are businesses,
why do they not do that?
because it's more expensive.
Yeah.
Because it's much more. It's reaching out, and it's sourcing. Sourcing is difficult. Sourcing is difficult, and in the restaurant systems in the United States, you can basically equip, sustain, and order everything you need for a restaurant from one company.
Yep.
And they have these big monopoly companies like taking charge of all ecosystems of this industry and making it really easy for people.
They'll bundle it in for you and give you the price cuts and everything you need in order to
Everything.
get the
But
business.
They're giving you shit.
Yeah.
They're giving you really bad stuff. And restaurants have a lot of other things to think about and to worry about than thinking of where they're going to get their meats or their vegetables or anything like that. So 100%, I definitely think that people should be more conscious of the restaurants that you're going to and ask, hey, what is this being fried on?
Yeah. By default, if I am catering an experience with anything that has to do with food, whether I am a hole in the wall, sandwich spot, or to, all the way up to a Michelin-Star restaurant, if my goal is to provide a great experience, right, at the end of the day, that translates into happy customers who enjoy the food. My goal as the business owner and the chef, if my goal is to satisfy that experience, but also not poison them in the process, right, but to cater a happy, feel good, but also hopefully healthy experience, sourcing good quality ingredients should be the cornerstone of that experience. It should be the main focus. I understand that it costs a lot more sometimes to source 7 ingredients from 7 different vendors, right? And it's a supply chain and operational nightmare and all of that stuff. Do you think we're trending into the right directions where restaurants are embracing that a little bit more, putting the customer in the center of attention from a health standpoint too? Or do you think we're in a bit of a stagnant place where it's just not there yet?
I mean, I'll speak for myself, and I'm definitely there. And I very rarely do I compare myself or try to look into what other restaurants are doing. But knowing that I'm doing the right thing is what keeps me going. And it's not just about getting the ingredients from the right person, but ultimately thinking that simple act from my side, it's supporting an ecosystem. It's supporting our climate change. Because if I'm supporting a local farm that has this beautiful farm where it's all organic, it's no-till, there's using no pesticides or anything like that, wherever that farm is in the world or here around Miami, there's an ecosystem happening there. There are birds, there's animals, there's all different types of reptiles. There's life. And in that little part of the life, right above that little land, there's good air. And that little good air, it's ultimately something that's helping this huge, disastrous climate change and things that are happening in the world. So if I'm doing that with our meats, if I know I'm supporting the 60 boats down the Keys and Naples that are literally, spear fishing or line caught local seasonal fishes, I know that I'm doing good, not just supporting that fisherman or that boat and his life and his family, but the ecosystem of the ocean. And I'm not, supporting big fish ships that are dragging across the ocean, killing all the coral reefs, killing and catching a bunch of other fishes that are not even supposed to be caught, then I'm okay. Then I know that somewhere or another I'm doing my little part, and it's not just because I want good ingredients, but because of the ultimate result for all of our lives. And if we continue to support massive production in the world of agriculture, in the world of restaurant, which is ironically enough one of the most unsustainable industries in the world,
Yeah.
What are we doing?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
How are you proud to put something on the table and be coherent in life?
Do you find yourself being very judgmental when you go to other places?
No, because I also understand.
As a chef?
No, because I just don't go out.
Yeah. Because I always think about this, when you're an actor, I feel like if I were to watch movies, like a Hollywood movie, as a Hollywood actor, it would be so hard for me to enjoy the movie because all I'm doing is looking at every single angle, the lighting, how someone reacted, because I'm like, that's everything. It's by default, right? You have to judge.
Yeah.
So I'm always interested in that. And of course you can go and enjoy a $7, sandwich or plate of whatever as a chef, because you can appreciate just flavors, good food, intentionality, love that's put into it, whether it's, a grandma and their daughter, just cooking in the kitchen. Yeah. We spoke about, what is it? Alfonsonia? What's it called again? In Oaxaca?
Alfonsina.
Yeah, I'm dying to go there, right? Yeah. And the pictures look amazing. The food looks great. But more than anything, I want to go and see an old school mom and son cook together and just go at it and fucking kill it, right? I want to see that.
Yeah.
I'm sure, just psychologically, call it placebo or not, the experience, the flavors, everything gets elevated 2 or 3 points immediately.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so you never find yourself kind of sitting there and being you just start judging everything?
I used to be very picky, and I used to just not only ruin the experience for myself, but the people
for
around
everyone
me.
Around you.
And I'm that's not the point. Yeah. You're here for the same purpose I'm here. We just want to sit at a table and enjoy food. Where is that food coming from? And it's sometimes I just know where to go now. Yeah. And if not, just, come
What's your favorite food?
My favorite
Your
food?
favorite cuisine?
I have a soft spot for Italian.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What's your favorite Italian in Miami?
My home.
And outside of your home? Outside of you and your best friends that you cook with?
I like a good Italian here lately in Miami.
See, this is the problem.
Yeah,
either there's too many of them or there's not enough.
The Boyade does an awesome job. They're great guys. I love what they've done here with Miami, and the food is delicious.
Awesome.
Yeah.
We're not. Yeah. Well, I was just curious. We're not gonna. We can decide where, so that you're not giving compliments to one and dissing the rest. Don't worry about that.
It's good to be honest.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Let's talk about innovation for a little bit. To me, in order for society to move forward, we see it across every industry, right? Innovation is a key. It's a must. It's a natural, I think, progression of what we do as human beings. What does innovation mean to you? How do you go about innovating? It could be within the experience as a whole, the dishes that you make, the ingredients. What does innovation mean for you?
I think innovation is what keeps me on my toes, and also knowing that the majority of things and ideas out there, we're basically on remixes. Things are out there. Things are done, especially in my industry. How could you really change the idea of going out to a restaurant? How could you be so innovative and so different to be so specific and unique. And for me, that's a very, very important drive for myself to push towards innovating in a way that's familiar. Because innovation, for me, doesn't mean to come up with something that's so different, that's so rare, that's so unique that nobody gets it.
Yep.
You know? For me, innovation is finding that soft spot of the things that you like, that I can share, that you're in need of, that, through food, for me, personally. If I put up a plate of, food and I tell you this is chocolate, but it looks like a piece of meat, I'm not trying to
Impress the 0.1% of the world. Yeah.
Exactly. I want to, be innovative in a way that you have that piece of chocolate and that you're being innovative in the way that you're sourcing and creating this chocolate for that connection that you want to build with people. So it's an innovative idea that can connect with someone. And the more your idea is able to connect with people in a human way, in a simple way, in a genuine way, I think you're being very innovative. Because you're finding ways that people want to feel good, that want to also share with others. So that for me is innovation.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
What is something do you have like any recent memory or distant memory of something that you tried that just didn't hit? Something that you were like, everyone has that, right? It's just like, oh, I'm super excited about this. This is going to kill it. It could be a menu item. It could be an idea. It can be an experience. It can be anything that just like, for some reason, there was a disconnect. It's okay if the answer is no, by the way.
Yeah. Sometimes we're afraid of just saying no.
There's also, you don't have to look for something.
I mean, really, honestly, something's it's just not popping up.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's plenty of
dude, when we
that.
went through this thing, it's like, I feel like, in a way, and I'm wondering if you feel the same.
Yeah.
I was going to say sometimes, but I think most times, and he probably knows this better than anyone at this point, I feel like I am the best and worst enemy of myself in a way. And I am the last line of defense in the sense of like, it doesn't have to be perfect, but it has to satisfy the criterias that I set for whatever experience I want to cater. And if I see that it's like, and again, if you're going to wait your whole life for something to be 10 out of 10 perfect until you release it to the world, whatever it might be, you're never going to get the feedback. You're never going to be able to iterate and improve, of course. But do you resonate that with that at all in terms of like, if it doesn't feel right, obviously it doesn't taste right, the balance isn't there, something about it just doesn't feel like, you'll never even proceed with it. It could be a partnership. It could be a company. It could be a new restaurant. It could be a menu item. For me, and for us, it translates in, chocolate bars that we're putting, SKUs, anything that has to do with the experience of the end consumer. Does that make sense?
100%. I think a lot of our feelings and like, decisions come a lot from what other people feel and think. And I think, I'm the same. I'm my biggest enemy. And I'm really, working towards the idea of being my biggest fan. Because by being your biggest fan, you're accepting for yourself whether you're doing things right or wrong, and or accomplishing something that will ultimately, be accepted by others. But I'm in an industry where the expectations are that everybody likes everything, and it's impossible. It's impossible. So, for me, creating a dish and feeling that it looks good, that it tastes good, is the most important. And then being accepted by others or being judged by others, there's just a very, very small little hole where things could get filtered.
Yeah.
And I think it's very important to keep that door very, very close so that you're not being fed by the expectations or ideas of others, but in reality, you're being fed by the work that you're putting to yourself to create what you create.
Yeah.
And that you are, yes, your biggest judge, but at the same time, your biggest fan. It's, yeah.
Do you consider yourself a perfectionist?
People say that a lot, yeah. But I think I am. Yeah. Which is not, that's like my biggest judge as well.
Yeah.
And I want that big judge to be my biggest fan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you a perfectionist on all things in life, or just what matters the most when it's probably what you do, which is catering and experience through food?
I'm pretty, working on that idea of, not being who you are as a professional, but like finding also who you are outside of your profession.
Yeah.
Is it's a big work. It's because I do find myself taking all the roots and professionalism and cleanliness and organization into my personal life.
Yeah.
And I just can't see anything dirty. I can't see anything out of place.
It's a good thing. To an extent.
Yeah, exactly. Until you find someone else who's like, dude, chill, it's okay.
Yeah. And you're like, it's really not a big deal.
Yeah. And you're like, yeah, you're right.
So not many people came to me and were like, yo, you're a perfectionist and that. And I'm like, I agree to an extent. Because I'm a perfectionist when it comes to not releasing a shitty product to the market. Yeah. I'm a perfectionist when it comes to not having a shitty cup of coffee because it happens to be something that's extremely important to me. I don't care about most things. I don't care about, where the glass of wine came from. I don't. And I know that you guys are big wine connoisseurs at Krüs and Los Félix. I remember when you guys first, launched or even pre-launch, every time I came, it was just like wine tastings. For you, right? Like that's super important. And it could be for people, whether it's in their business or not. I couldn't care less. So I think people tend to mislabel what a perfectionist actually means. And perhaps we need to kind of redefine what that is. But I think taking pride and setting standards, which is really what it is for the things that really do matter the most, is super important. Because if you have no standards across the board, a lot of things in life will translate into being lower standards. And that's just the truth.
Yeah. I think you can just take that word and just switch it with passionate.
Yeah.
You're just very passionate about one certain thing. It's like, yes, I am.
Yeah.
So what?
Yeah, exactly. What is the most ridiculous piece of feedback or criticism that you either you personally got or your restaurants or your team?
It's sad. It's sad to see that people just feel that they're like equipped or like knowledgeable enough or like to just coming into a restaurant without even knowing the history or knowing the restaurant or like tasting the food and just come with an energy of wanting to just like diss on everything, like just be negative about everything.
Is there anything specific that just stuck with you that someone just came in and was just like blah, like just shout out some bullshit, whether it could be in person, could be online, they're just like, what the fuck, what?
Yeah, the bigger you get, the more accolades you receive.
The more trolling happens.
The more people want to, in a way, feel like it's not good enough for them, or feel that people shouldn't see your restaurant or your food as good as it is. And a lot of people do come with that energy and not accept the food and be like, this is not well cooked, or this is way too salty, or this is, needs more salt. And the way that I take those comments or that negativism is by approaching them and hearing them out, understanding what's behind their comment or their idea or their reasoning, and like maneuvering in a way that he or she doesn't feel like I'm right or wrong, but neither is she or he feeling that, hey, this fish is undercooked. It's like, actually, the fish that we get is like, sushi grade fish that comes from, Florida waters, freshly caught, and I'm cooking it on purpose, not super cooked or well done, but like almost like a medium rare. So you're actually experiencing and tasting the beauty of this piece of fish, And then they're like, well, you should have said that before. Or like, how am I supposed to know this? But your fish is not undercooked. Your fish is cooked to, a point where I'm really trying to give voice to the fish and, make you taste something that perhaps you've never tasted before. Because you're used to ordering salmon in a restaurant or an overcooked piece of like branzino or like whatever that's on every single menu. It's like, guys, salmon is very far away from, where we are right now. Do not order a piece of salmon in Miami. If you're in Norway, go ahead, get all the salmon that you want. Or in Alaska, go ahead. Well, of course, in seasonality as well. But yeah, it's the expectations of people in their flavors, their ideas, whatever. And just feeding them with a little bit of knowledge so that they're like, oh, okay, maybe it didn't really need so much salt, or maybe it didn't really need to be more cooked.
It's something that I struggle with at the beginning, because I think the reason I ask that is because I feel like we're very similar in that sense of, if you are a perfectionist and if you take a lot of pride in what you do and what you offer, and once you put that, that dish comes out of the kitchen and onto the table, you're done, right? Your job is, when I say your job is done, in terms of there's nothing else that you can do to touch that experience for the end consumer.
Yeah.
Now it's up to them to give you the feedback, right?
Yeah.
In a perfect world, every single person enjoys it, but we just know it's not like that, right? And so it took me a while to get to the point where, for me, I'm like, I don't want it to be the 90-10 rule or the 95-5 rule, hopefully.
Yeah.
But if you want to provide an experience to as many people as possible. Meaning, in a perfect world, you would have endless foot traffic into the restaurants, which means if it's not all the same people coming in, there's a lot of people tasting, your food. So if you're trying to make a much bigger impact, the bigger the chances are that there'll be some mishits, right? And just, you cannot, by default, put something out there that every single person on the planet will love 10 out of 10. And it's just the way it is.
Yeah, we have to accept that and we have to understand that. And then when people don't like it, what they're in need of is a little bit of knowledge.
Yeah. Or honestly, it's a little bit of love and empathy. Because sometimes they're screaming off the top of their lungs. It's usually not about the chocolate.
Yeah.
And it's usually not about the fact that the fish was too salted. It's because they had a really, really shitty day.
Yeah.
And then they came in hoping for something and they pay, a premium price. Because if the premium experience is as such, then the price will reflect. Yeah. And they're just pissed off. And they just need they need someone to listen and say, you're right.
Exactly.
And move forward.
Exactly. Just need a little pat in the shoulder. That's all I needed. A little attention. One little attention. Yeah.
We're going to wrap up soon because I don't want to hold you till the very last minute. But what is your number one? What is your guilty pleasure? What's the one thing that you're just like, fuck everything? Fuck the health attributes, the sourcing. Just let me go at it.
I'm gonna lie,
be honest.
My sushi bills on Uber Eats, it's quite high.
But you get them from shitty places? No,
I get it from B-side, which it's the same guys from
No,
Itamae.
You can't tell me. If I'm telling you a guilty pleasure, you can't tell me Uchi. Uchi is it might not be the top of the top, but it's good. I'm saying like a really nasty Philly cheesesteak, a burger and fries, pizza.
I would eat that. I would eat
what is
that.
What is your number one
it's
though?
Not like I have them on a regular basis.
Yeah, but the thing that you're just like when it's time, whether it was one of those nights or whatever, that you're just like I don't care about anything. I don't care about the sourcing. I don't care about the health component. That's what I go for. Your palate is too refined at this point.
No, it's not about that. It really, it's not to sound like, stubby or like anything like that. I was raised like this. Like my mom, had never had frozen foods, never had, sweets, never had like fried stuff, like throughout all my childhood. So like all these other things are a little bit unknown for myself. And of course, we all have like guilty pleasures, and I would love like I don't know, like a super. Well, actually, a couple of weeks ago, like last weekend, we were coming from the Keys with some friends, and we have just spent the whole day in like the ocean and just like, hey, let's stop at like Dairy Queen and get a smoothie and get a milkshake. And that thing tasted like glory. And I knew I was, having thousands and thousands of calories in sugar and like shitty milk and shitty everything. But it tasted good at the moment.
Yeah.
And it was a Dairy Queen milkshake.
I knew there was something.
There was something.
For me, it's a burger. It's just a really, listen, I'm all about grass-fed, grass-finished. Hopefully good buns. I don't subscribe to, whole wheat thin crust bun. Like, give me a good brioche, bun, like something, 100%. Right? I want the right sauces.
Dude, come to Krüs during brunch.
Brunch?
We have
I saw that burger.
Killer burger.
Yeah, I saw that.
Killer burger.
Beef, 100%?
100%.
All right, I'm doing it.
Beef. Yeah.
All right, we're going to wrap up. 1 or 2 questions about chocolate.
Yeah.
How do you, what is... When you hear chocolate, what comes to mind?
For me, when I hear chocolate, I automatically think about small communities in the hills of Sierra Nevada, Santa Marta, giving so much love to these beans that are so powerful. And I'm not trying to like be, cliche or like romantic or anything like that. But like I was born seeing that and going to my farms outside of like the city and like always seeing cacao trees and seeing them dry in the sun, and yeah, and the effort that goes into making one little chocolate bar that like it's somewhere or another everywhere in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that make people happy, and we touched on milkshakes, burgers, and stuff. But there's something about chocolate, and obviously there's the healthy compounds in it that could actually scientifically prove that. But to you, why does chocolate make people so happy? What is it about chocolate?
I think we have to understand that our tongue, the first thing that recepts, like the tip of your tongue, those are all sugar receptors. And then you have in the back, like really, really back, you have the umami on the sides, you have saltiness in the back, you have like acid. So just understanding how the food in general is perceived by your tongue, which is the what tells you whether you like it or whether it's good, whether it's healthy or not. It's just that it's a given, whether there's something sweet in it and you try it, it catches you, it catches yourself. And even as a little kid, when you first have your first piece of like chocolate or like ice cream or something, the smile that comes into the face of people, that you always go back to that. And I think that's why it's a continuous like happiness that you get, or like a guilty pleasure that you get when you have sweets or when you have a bar of chocolate.
Yeah.
It automatically just takes you back to that like first smile or like that childhood memory or yeah.
Childhood memories for you when it comes to sweets. Is it chocolate or is it a different type of sweet indulgence?
For me was fruits.
Yeah, especially if you're from there.
Yeah. I mean,
Caribbean
fruits in Colombia, in the Caribbean of Colombia are just chocolates. They're treats.
Cacao is a fruit.
Yeah,
Hey.
yeah.
Dates too.
Yeah.
What's your favorite conscious bar flavor?
Definitely this tahini one.
Tahini. All right.
I can't stop. It's so good.
All right.